Yep, and we're recording. Now, I have to say, oh, there we go. I got you.
Yeah.
There you go, Phil. I got to say, Phil, is welcome to the show, good man.
Yeah, it's good to be here.
Thank you, man. So you've done a lot of work, to say the very least here, but I have to ask right off the bat, how has it been for you? Because for myself personally, it's been weird in filmmaking. How's it been for you the past couple months?
Nothing's changed for me.
Nothing?
You know, it's if I listen to interviews on the radio with like writers and composers, and it's the same thing. I mean, I just work on my own. I've got a cottage in the back, and I've got a studio at work. So I'm developing a sequel to this movie that I'm just wrapping up right now called Mad God. Oh. So it's occupying all of my time.
Yeah. So you're still working on it. So that's a plus. I mean, that's a plus. You said you got a cottage?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's nice. So it's like your own little private away. Oh, shit. Look at that.
Yeah. So
I just have a miserable home studio. That's all I got in here. I'm going to try and one up. But, man, that's good. That's so you're still keeping busy and such. I mean, it keeps everyone away. Like, where's Phil? He's in his cottage. All right, we're going to leave him be. Oh, man. Well, I got to say
everybody at my studio is working from home, so.
Oh, that's true. That's true. So at least you've been working, so that's a plus. That's a plus. I've been curious though, because you've done so much, to say the least. And I know you get this a lot. Like you've done so much work, you've done so many great things. But I have to ask, like, as a guy who studied visual effects, and also a few friends of mine in it and such like that as well, what is almost your favorite thing that you think that you like to do? Has it been stop motion? Has it been always that? Has it always been stop motion? Has it been just visual effects in general? Like, what do you think made the eyes open with quarantine and whatnot? Do you think you've really seen that you want to do a lot more of that you've done in the past, or what is it you like to do the most?
No, nothing has really changed for me ever since I was 8 years old. Really, it's just. But I was kind of wondering the same thing, and so I went back the other day and I just went through a list of a bunch of movies, just across the board, from things that had inspired me, including things that I'd worked on. The Starship Troopers, RoboCop, Jurassic Park, some of the Star Wars stuff, Tauntauns and Walkers, and just going through the Ray Harryhausen stuff, 7-4 Sinbad, Jason the Argonauts, looking at the spectacle of it all, and Jason the Argonauts, for instance, it's whatever it is, a dozen skeletons and like a 900 Hydra, and Starship Troopers, it's a gazillion bugs, and Jurassic Park, seeing the dinosaurs for the first time, and King Kong is seeing dinosaurs for the first time. And what I was looking for is the one thing that was reducible in all of those things that drew me to them. And it was an answer I already knew intuitively, but I never thought of before, which was it was stuff I'd never seen before.
That's true. Yeah.
And that's the simple answer. That's all I ever wanted to do, was to make stuff I had not seen, and a lot of guys that are like fanboys that want to emulate something else, make a Ed 209 or a Cyclops or something like that. But I was never into that stuff. I always wanted to go places where I had not been before.
So making the new things, isn't that kind of like, as artists, what we kind of strive for almost, is something making it new? Like, we can copy the same shit day in, day out, but then if we make something new, it almost activates something new in our brains and creativity. And I think is a test to see if we're actually good at what we do or not.
Well, but it's like, it's like being a kid. It's just like playing, like with Army Men or something. What if we, and then it's just a bunch of what ifs, and let's try this, try that. And I really don't think that much. I mean, I've been doing it for so long. It's very intuitive. It's like whatever, just sitting down and playing the piano. You just start, and you read things like interviews with, say, composers like Bach or Mozart or Beethoven, and they're asked like where they get their great ideas from, and they said, I don't. I just transcribe. You know, God tells me what to do, and I just write down the notes. You know,
Yeah.
which is kind of true, but kind of not true too, because there's a lot of work involved. But it's effortless work because it's kind of like play. There was an interview with Picasso where they asked him what he is seeking when he starts say a painting or a sculpture, and he says, I do not seek, I find. You know, I'm just looking. I don't know. I have no idea. I'm just intuitively responding to things. And then Kenneth Price, the LA artist ceramicist, was asked in an interview once, what is the difference between an artist and a craftsman? And his answer was the best answer I've heard, which is a craftsman knows what they're doing and an artist does not. And, you know, you just go through this. And it's kind of interesting. I was pondering that and going back and thinking about the work of Willis O'Brien and Ray Harryhausen. And so that for me, it kind of, they both define the difference between an artist inventor and a craftsman, whereas O'Brien essentially invented, you know, stop motion animation for, you know, US cinema. I mean, he was doing it alongside of Ladislav Starovich, but I don't think they even knew about each other. It was just like, there's a camera and there's, you know, something that I can move and I can take one frame and create this illusion. And then, you know, Ray took O'Brien stuff. Now, O'Brien stuff was really complicated and really imaginative, and it took all the firepower of the studio and talent, of multiple talents from people that needed to be pulled together to make a King Kong, down to a really super simple process that allowed him to make his movies for virtually no money. But the simplification of the process yielded a certain kind of a thing, like a Muppet movie. Okay, well, in a Muppet movie, you generally are only going to see the characters from here on up. You know, you're not going to see what's down here, the contact with the floor, and that defines everything editorially, you know, sound, music, everything. And so Ray's techniques of the dynamation technique was relatively simple, and so it allowed him to do this stuff quickly and cheaply and alone. And so, you know, I think he was a master craftsman. Was he an artist? You know, there's some bang inspiration in there from time to time, but you see it waning over time. And it's like after, I don't know, for me, it's like after Jason the Argonauts or Mysterious Island, it was all kind of like, you know.
I think if you question people, they're going to be like, wait, there was more? That's going to be the thing. You're like, oh, wait, there was more.
Yeah, you know, but it started to become redundant. You know, we started recycling things. And I would meet up for Ray when I was, you know, shooting in England. And I was on the Pinewood lot when he was shooting, just wrapping up Clash of the Titans, and I was doing Dragon Slayer. And yeah, he just said, "This is it for me. I can't stand doing this stuff anymore." You know, I feel like a monk. You know, so we'd go out to the pub, and I visited him the day that he chopped the head off the Medusa. So he let me see the stage and what was going on. Super simple, just really like one light with the color wheel on it for flicker frames, and like a rim, and then rear screen projector, and that was it. And a camera.
That's incredibly simple. Like, you think it's more. You look at it and you think it's more, but I think that's the beauty in the behind the scenes that you and I know about. You more than me, because compared to me, like you're a god. But in a sense where it's relatively simple, some of the things that people think, oh, it must have been so much money. Oh, it must have been absolutely crazy to do. But then when you're starting to work on it, you're like, kind of? Not really. It was a lot of relatively simple stuff back in the day.
Many things are simple, you know, and that's what you're always looking for. is what the simplicity of the shot is, but also what's the wow part of it, you know?
Oh,
And O'Brien, even up until, you know, those crappy movies that he was working on, like Black Scorpion or Giant Behemoth, which are really pain in the ass to watch, but he's got some great designs in some of those shots that are really spectacular. You know, with scorpions coming in and tearing open a train and grabbing people, the scorpions fighting each other for these little
it's so cool.
It's
so
really
cool.
great. And Ray never, you know, some of the stuff, you know, the Cyclops and skeletons and hydras and all that were really terrific, but they you know, they were hemmed in by the limitations of his technique, which is what allowed him to do the work. So
exactly. Well, that was my curiosity, because I've had people and friends of mine who I've talked to from Ghostbusters and stuff like that, and the thing I've found out a lot is that while some craftsmen prefer the old days for its more simplicity, but a lot prefer the modern day stuff because of everything we're able to do extra now. Do you prefer kind of the old method ways or the new with more technology available and stuff like that as well? Some stuck in a way, some are not, but do you prefer modern day or older days?
Never really ever on the page with you know, making anything real. You know, I mean, what I always wanted to do was make things hyper real, and you know, where there's that line between the artificiality of what you're doing and the reality of what you're seeing. You know, and it's this weird mental space. Ray Harryhausen called it surrealistic, which it was not. But it wasn't. It wasn't. No. You know. It wasn't really surrealism is defined by I guess you could fall into it, a stark juxtaposition of two different things, you know, that are right next to each other. And, you know, so, you know, most cinema is not that unless, you know, you're Louis Buñuel or somebody that goes after it.
Yeah.
But, but, you know, in regard to the simplest approach to things, I mean, that's what I would always just go like, what is not going to cause me any headaches? And a couple of for instances on RoboCop, we kind of came to loggerheads because there wasn't enough money to do what we needed to do, and there was a big dialogue scene with Ronnie Cox as he introduces Ed 209. And the last thing in the world I wanted to do was to have to go out and break up the continuity of the action for Paul, because Paul's like he's there, you know? And to make him jump through all these hoops of shooting background plays and then waiting and getting Ronnie Cox and going back to LA and match lighting the whole thing, you know, it was like, I don't want to do that. And so I pitched to Paul with that we build, and John Davison, the producer, that we build a full-scale prop of Ed 209. And here's how we do it. We, when Ronnie Cox opens the door and presents Ed 209, that's the full-size Ed 209 that Craig Hayes built. And then all the ambulatory shots as he walks into the room and powers down in stop motion. And then we wheel in the full-size prop, and Ronnie Cox has his dialogue scene, and we keep the presence of Ed 209 there by this low bass pedal, kind of like his consciousness is like, zzz, you know?
Yeah.
And Paul went, yeah, of course. That makes total sense. And that's what we did. And then same thing with Starship Troopers is like, okay, we got like a gadzillion bugs on the planet P when they're attacking, and everybody runs up and they see all these bugs, you know, swarming in. How do the bugs attack? What is the bug strategy? And it's like, the bug strategy is bug strategy. They would do what they would do, which is they would follow the path of water and erosion. And so, you know, we were in Hills Half Acre, and we did photogrammetry and created a topographical landscape in the computer. And the computer guys made a bunch of little like red ping pong balls and just dropped them in. And they flowed through, and I think we tilted the set, and they just flowed like water, and it was like, okay, now all we have to do is replace them with bugs.
Jesus. That goes back to what you were saying. It's almost simple. Like sometimes it's like you think of the most complicated situations you have, especially in film and television. Like they're like, oh, we can't figure this out. In comes Phil. Hold on. Here's a relatively simple way to figure it out. And it's because I think maybe people want the big shebang, and they want to figure like, oh, they want the big huge explosions and stuff like that to figure it out. Oh, what can we do here? Oh, it's going to take 2 years to figure this one scene out. No. It's simple. If you go at it with a simple kind of ideal, you can be able to be a craftsman and make some truly good art, I think.
Well, and sometimes you come up with ideas that you don't have to do.
That's true.
But,
Save yourself
that
time.
are really good ideas that somebody else has to do. And so you got to be careful about crossing that Rubicon. In that when we were on Jurassic Park, we were doing the scene where the lawyer gets killed by the Tyrannosaurus. And the way it was boarded and scripted was, we can't, we just can't have a computer graphic lawyer. Expensive, it costs $1 million. And just has to be killed by a Tyrannosaurus, like a locomotive running over him. And it was like, that is where you don't want to be, where the tail's wagging the dog.
Oh,
and
yeah.
So, whatever. So they we did a take, and it was a shot that ILM was going to put together, and I was there with Dennis, and I go up to Steven and I go, you know what, we gotta see the lawyer get eaten by the Tyrannosaurus. A dinosaur has to eat a man. And Steven goes, we have to do that. Yeah. And all the producers' hairs were on fire, and they were going like, it's all budgeted. Hey, I was like, listen, calm down, everybody. It's just do one take or a series of takes. Just destroy the building and tilt the camera up. You don't have to use it, but you have it. And knowing full well that Steven would do whatever he needed to do to get that shot. He would cut 5 other shots to get a dinosaur eating a man. And so we shot it. Of course, it was going to be in the movie. And what ILM did was they took, and they were right in being wary of doing this because no one had really done a convincing computer graphic human before. But it was like, really, this would look fine in stop motion with the clay puppet.
It's true.
Yeah. And the thing is just going like this, and it's all going to be full of motion blur and whatnot. So what they did was they just kind of cut bait, and they put clothes on the Terminator 2 robot character and painted the silver, pink.
Jesus.
And so that was the stunt double that stood in for the lawyer.
So meanwhile, all stunt doubles that are listening to this right now are like, he's making us not have jobs. But you know what? That was a pretty good idea.
Yeah, and they're just things that when I could totally avoid stunt doubles. I went to really great lengths on Starship Troopers. There were a bunch of scenes where people get skewered by the warrior bugs.
Yeah.
And so I had them set up a big green screen stage on the top of the parking lot at Sony, and got the special effects guy, John Richardson's guys, to rig stunt doubles. And they would pull them on ropes and do what I needed them to do and jiggle them around. And we made a match move puppet to those. But you get like when Dizzy is skewered and is being taken back by the bugs that kill her. That's what we did for that. And it's just you wouldn't get that with computer graphic thing,
It's true. That's where my love for it comes into play, and a lot of people's love and your love is practical. There's a whole war, I think, and it's stupid, but the war between practical and visual effects. It's something where it doesn't need to be. And I think practical has its senses where it's amazing. Visual has its amazing senses too. But then when you combine them both, we get really, really amazing stuff on screen, to say the least, you know?
Absolutely.
And I've never understood that war thing with that. Have you ever encountered that thing before, like with the visual versus practical sort of thing?
No, not really. I
Yeah.
think most of the filmmakers that I've worked with will go towards what makes sense, and most of the really good filmmakers are really, as Paul describes it, or analogizes it, it's like he's the conductor of the symphony, and in the case of Jurassic Park or it's as Paula said, there's no movie without Phil. So
it's true. It's really true.
Made clear in his agreement with the studio that he wouldn't do the movie unless I did it with him. And I was the equivalent in his mind to the first violinist, in the orchestra. And so he's going to do everything he can to make sure I get everything that I need and back me up and be really inclusive. And we built all that stuff together. We just did back and forth storyboards all the time, saying, "Let's try this. Let's try this. Oh, this will be better. This will be more fun. Oh, this will have them," as Paul would say, vomiting. Yeah. And so again, it just comes back to kids playing, with their toys.
And I think that's why we love what we do, isn't it, film? Like we love to be able to just shit. Other than film, I work in comics and doing the podcast went on, doing paleontological stuff as well. And it is the sandbox. And no matter what sandbox you're in, it always shows you every time you're able to just play free, you get that freedom and you're able to do what you love and do what you can and do what you like. It makes it worth it in the end, I think.
Yeah, you just kind of lose yourself to it.
Yes, yes. It's almost therapeutic, one might say.
Oh, it absolutely is.
Yeah.
I've got anxiety and depression, and I didn't realize it, but and I was dyslexic. As a kid, they thought I was retarded, and really? The dyslexia. They wanted to put me in retarded classes, and the dyslexia taught me how to just go to fuck you to adults. You know what? You don't get it.
Yeah.
Prove it to you, and it gives you lead underwear, and you just they can't hurt you because you won't let them hurt you.
It's true, and it's almost showing everybody.
Where I was going the rest.
No, I think that's his best put right there on that point, because I think being a craftsman of any sort with anything is best therapy. That's it. There's a saying I used to have: creativity is the best therapy, because whether you're writing, being an artist, you're building. Like I built one stop motion puppet back in the day for a film. I've only been able to build one so far. That was the most therapeutic thing I've ever done, because putting the maquette together, getting the clay done with casting, molding, all that sort of stuff like that. You put on some music, the world's gone. COVID, what? Nothing. Drama gone. It's all nice.
I found that therapy, fortunately, very young in life. When I started doing this stuff around 7 or 8 years old, was that it worked that way. I could totally, all through my life, control my depression and anxiety by, if I started feeling a dark cloud coming over me, if I started feeling like I was being plugged into a 220 wall socket, I would just pick up some clay and start, and it would just evaporate just like that,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So I have a fan question here, and it's very interesting. By the way, very classy drink. I wish I had a jar. Mine was being clean. I just got like a little drawer. It's from my girlfriend. I want a little mug here. What you drinking, Phil? Kind of curious, actually.
It's iced tea.
Nice. I just get coffee for the morning.
Java brand iced tea, non-sweetened.
Non-sweetened? Nice. You're a lot harder of a man than I am. Because
I really don't like sweets that much. I like hot food. And,
Nice. The fan question I got it's kind of an interesting one, kind of ties into what we were talking about before, making something new, but they said they gave a 3-subject thing. Is what do you enjoy working on more? Humans, aliens, dinosaurs, or monsters?
Makes no difference.
Makes no difference?
No,
That's
I prefer that it be different.
Yeah.
You know?
That's what I was thinking. I'm like, oh, this.
After Star Wars, it was like, okay, enough space aliens already, and after Jurassic Park, all right, yeah. I've been into dinosaurs since I was a kid, and now I'm cured of dinosaurs. And after RoboCop, no more robots, please. And after Troopers, oh, no more alien bugs. And I just want to move on to the next thing, and the composition of the landscape just totally changed. I was on the phone the other day, and I talk about this with Dennis Buren and John Berg quite frequently. I hadn't talked to Ken Ralston for a few years, and we were reminiscing, and we frequently do about the good old days, and we go back and go like, hey, you know what? They really were the good old days. We were so lucky to, where we kind of cut our teeth was doing commercials in LA, but it was the LA of the 20s, 30s, and 40s and 50s, in those buildings, in those old sound stages with old guys. I used to go smoke cigarettes with Tex Avery. Jesus. And, where you could just, people were accessible. Ray Bradbury. I carried on correspondence with him for years. And Forrest J. Ackerman. There are all these guys that just were available to you, because nobody except, like this many people were interested in it, and True. So they had the time. And so I got to see a lot of great stuff. There was a science fiction festival, a Comic-Con, I think they called it, up in the San Francisco Bay Area in 1969. And we'd hang out with Ray Bradbury because he didn't drive, and we drive him. He couldn't afford the Claremont Hotel, so we had to take him to his dive motel. And hung out with him. And drinking, chocolate shakes. And Harlan Ellison walks in, and he and Ray get into this huge screaming match. And it's just great, just seeing these like professional guys just totally lose it,
It's like, who do I vote for? I don't know. Just don't get in the center, whatever you do.
Yeah.
Oh man, and it's true. Like you can't really do that, minus the COVID crap. You can't really do that anymore. Like, because there's so many people and whatnot, and exclusivity and all that jazz. Like, I hear the stories from friends and from the business and whatnot, and it is true. And I wish I was born, God, 30, 40 more years ago. I really do.
Ken and I were talking about, they were the good old days. And, it's the old joke is the old codgers saying, well, you kids, you just don't know anything about the good old days when things were simpler and, not complicated. But they were.
Yeah.
And you don't hear that from kids when you tell people, I tell people your age, hey, they were the good old age. You go like, fucking A, I wish I could have been there,
Yeah, but then it's like, then so you go back. I think it might be one of those too, where there's some moments like, oh, that was amazing, and you go back and like, oh shit, I don't think it actually was. Oh no, like we've got all the peripheral.
One way or the other is fun. I mean, sometimes they're not. If you get a jerk director, but most directors aren't jerks. I have a lot of trouble with David Slade on the second Twilight movie, or is it the third one? Remember, but we did not hit it off at all, and sometimes it just goes like that. And then that's happened to me a few times where I got on the wrong side of the director for the right reasons. And I think on Howard the Duck, I saw George in the parking lot and said, hey George, your guys Willard and Gloria, they're not going to let us finish this movie. They can't make it about one. And so I went to lunch and I came back, and the main office, Tom Smith's office, it was huge, screaming and yelling. And I go like, I wonder what the fuck's going on in there. Yeah. I was, drinking coffee and looking at the free speech board in the hallway, and Willard and Gloria come by and go like, "How could you? How could you?" And I went, well, I don't know. What are you guys talking about? And they went out, and I went, and Tom Smith, George had left by this time, and went, "What the fuck went on up there?" And he went like, "Well, George threw me under the bus."
Oh no.
He said, Phil said, "You're going to fuck the movie up."
Oh, shit. Well, I'll pack my bag up now.
On the other hand, the Twilight movies, I didn't like those so much. But Chris Weitz was a perfect gentleman, great guy to work with. And Bill Connon and I became quite good friends on the last two. I would tease him all the time because he's a theater guy. And we'd be out in the woods freezing our asses off. I'd go like, "You know what, Bill? Mr. Hitchcock wouldn't do it that way." And he goes, I know.
But in the heart.
But we had a great time, together. We're both huge James Whale fans, and we really wanted to do kind of a sequel to the Bride of Frankenstein called The Bride, and we're going to do it. He had gotten Angela Jolie, but then the studio backed out at the last minute, but how it goes.
It's true.
And then he wanted to have me in the Beast project, and we went to Cocteau with a really good makeup, and got a really great makeup guy all set up, and then everything just went to hell in a handbasket at Disney. We just had these huge tribunals, where the producers would, they'd already made up their minds what they were going to do, and they were going to listen to anybody tell them what to do. And Bill and I were making the argument for doing a really good practical, a prosthetic with, if it needed computer enhancement, with maybe pull the eyes further apart or something like that. And boy, the Disney guys just were like, "Well, did you see Planet of the Apes?" And I went like, "Yeah." "Okay, what did you think of that?" And I'm like, "Well, the apes are fucking great, but." Gary Oldman's a good actor, and he gave the worst performance of his life. And he's been interviewed, and he told you why. Just like, who was the old guy that played the wizard in the midget movie? Not the midget movie, but the...
oh, shit.
The guy that played the wizard, the main good wizard.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I can't think of it. Anyway, yeah, it's one of them. Fans will let us know.
Anyway, same thing. Is like, I can't take this job seriously, with guys, jumping around in, outfits with ping pong balls attached to them. And, I just said, but you don't understand. What you really need for this to work is magic in a bottle. You've got to have the girl with the beast. And once you put the right performer in a make, he will become that thing. I illustrated this, and it's shown up in a couple of documentaries on me, where on Empire, what was it? No, Return of the Jedi. I designed and built this suit for this guy that plays the piano, a little blue guy.
Oh, yeah.
And so we needed to test it out before we shipped it off. So I didn't have anybody there, and I was shooting a video of it, and I got into the suit and put the music on. I have no sense of rhythm at all.
No.
And I was in this suit and blind, and well, I have a sense of rhythm, but it's very oblique.
You mean to tell me, Phil, you cannot play the piano blind? Is that what you're telling me?
No. And so anyway, I was in this thing and bouncing around. My wife walks in, And she goes like, "Where's Phil?" And they go like, "He's in the suit." And she goes like, "No, that can't be him, because he could not dance his way out of a paper bag."
Uh-huh.
And I took the suit off, and it was me. And that was the point I made to the Disney guys. You know, it's like, you know, I got like a bunch of, you know, like these masks all around here, you know, and I have a buddy that made masks and was taught by master craftsmen in Indonesia how to make the masks, and they use them. The American Indians would do it too. It transforms you. You can become this other, you know, kind of spectral supernatural creature, you know, if you put on a different identity. And they didn't understand that at all, you know, and they said, okay, give me some example. I go like Charles Notre Dame and John Merrick and the Elephant Man. And it's like, I don't even know if they knew what those movies were, you know.
Probably not.
And what really became clear was, you know, they stopped calling me, and I was radio silence for a couple of months, and I get a call from Bill, and he's in England. I can tell he's on kind of second bottle of wine. It's got to be like 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning in England. And he was like, "Hey, they bumped you from the movie," and it was like, you know, well, what do they say? And he said, "They said we don't think he would fit within our culture." And
what?
Yeah, but it was totally true. They were right.
Yeah, because you were trying to, well, in their eyes, you were breaking their vision. Like, no, it must be this. And like, wait, no, you could do this. Infidel, kill him. Like, that's what it seems like, sort of thing.
Like, they had no vision. They had an agenda, and their agenda was the simplest path for them. You know, because they would say, well, the actor would have to get up really early in the morning and would be uncomfortable all day long. It was like, you're paying them, right? The right actor will want to do that. But, you know, that was a phony argument on their part. They didn't care one way or the other if an actor was causing any pain or anything. But what they did want was they just wanted to shoot and get off the set and kick the problem downstream to post-production and visual effects and wash their hands of it. And, you know, I got to say they were right, you know, and I was wrong in that particular instance because they got what they wanted. Film made $1 billion anyway. Nobody gives a shit whether things look good anymore or not.
It's sad, you know? But it's true. It's very true, and it's sad. It is.
So, you know, and that's, I think, where, you know, me and everybody of my generation is like, you know, we are so done with working on movies, you know, because it's no fun unless you can have people you like working with to be miserable with together, you know.
It's true. What is it? If there's 2 rules of filmmaking, and I was told this right before I started in film career years ago, and they said if you're on time, something's broken, and if you're not having a little bit of pain and suffering with you and the cast and crew, then you're not truly making a good movie.
I don't know. I never really suffered at all. You know, I kind of adhered to
quote unquote suffering. Quote unquote.
The Verna Field School of filmmaking, and her book she wrote, you know, in your career working in movies, you might be lucky to work on 2 or 3 memorable movies in your lifetime. But, you know, when you look back at all of the movies you worked on, you don't even think about the movies you work on. You think about the people you worked with, you know, and the camaraderie and the fun, you know, and all that. And that's pretty much the way it works for me and everybody I know. You know,
it's true. You never remember like, oh, this, what was it? Like, oh, that movie. You don't remember the title. You remember the people, almost, you could say, and you remember that fun memories and stuff. I mean, everyone I worked on, I always think like, oh yeah, the time when they asked me to suit up in one of the German World War I suits I built. And they're like, oh, we need you to suit up for a scene. No problem. And we were joking around there, and we had a dance party or something like that while waiting because we were 30 minutes behind. I think you remember that stuff. You know, people, like the 48 hours we were working or whatever it was. Like, it's good times. It was good times. Now, I have to ask, I'm curious now. I mean, the camera moved and whatnot, but I was curious when we first started. Is behind you there is a stop motion puppet behind you in a glass case. Now, what exactly is that? Because I was very curious.
That thing?
Yeah.
It's a frog.
Is it really? Wow.
Yeah.
I like
it. It is a. Well, let's see. I don't want to touch it.
Yeah.
But it's a. I've got some other ones too. It was like my buddy Blair Clark got into doing this, and I just copied him. And I got another one that's a really big bullfrog. And we just break the joints and glue them back together so that they're ambulatory. I mean, so they look like they can walk on their legs rather than sit there like a toad. It's really easy.
Wow.
Transformation.
I like it. Was it just one of those you just built for fun? Did you use it in anything, or
a shop that had one of them? The one I have in my house is really big. It was a bullfrog that was in this. It was in a place called the Bone Room that had lots of different bones and skulls and teeth and whatnot. And they had you could buy crickets for your amphibians there, and they had a big bullfrog named Uncle Bill. And one day Uncle Bill died, and I asked them, "Can I have Uncle Bill's skeleton? Can you prepare it?" And they go, "Sure." And you go, how much? And you go, a couple $100. And I'm like, "Yep, I'll take it." And then I did that, and I've got Uncle Bill standing up in a bell jar in my house.
Oh, that's cool. See, that's amazing. I can't move my webcam because it's like in a weird spot, but it's amazing. Like the fun stuff you have. Like I got a so my right, I have like a case, and it's full of fossils that I collected and stuff along over the years. And people are like, "Do you have? Is that coral?" I'm like, "Yeah." And like, "Oh, it's a piece of wire." Like, "No, I got it because it's a fossilized root from the Ice Age." And it's like, all that fun stuff like that. I think when you put stuff like yours, like like that right there. That is what inspires you.
You see that little blue behind me?
Yes.
That blue, that is a Mobius print that's signed. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. I bought a bunch of them. When he was alive, you could buy them. They weren't that expensive.
Wow. See.
So, yeah, and then I got to meet him. George hired him to do some concept stuff on Willow, and I was really disappointed in meeting him. I thought he would be the wildest guy I ever met, and really was looking forward to having a beer with him or dropping acid or whatever. And he shows up in this like a businessman in a suit, and he's super straight-laced, aristocratic, no sense of humor, whatever. And it was like, I can't believe that you are the guy I thought you were.
Wow. Yeah, that really puts it in a motif. Then again, I mean, are you sure it was true? Maybe he was doing a business thing. Are you sure it wasn't just messing with people? Or like, wow.
I don't know. No, I have some French friends, and they all go like, "Yeah, I knew Mobius," and a lot of French guys are like that. So
fair. That's true. That's true. So we are coming near to the end here, Phil, and I gotta say it's been a blast talking to you, good man. Like it's history in the making. You live in a museum almost. I would say, yeah, and or you work in a museum, I should say too. I don't know what the house is like. The house, and your wife must be really, really laid back with what you do, which is amazing too to see.
She thinks I'm insane.
Really? I mean, that's a pretty healthy relationship. That's also that is kind of healthy. Yeah, give or take.
Yeah, it can be. So listen, a movie I've been working on forever. The Mad God. Seen any of that? So we're going to wrap it up this year. We just have a handful of composites to do, and sound and music. I got a great composer that I found through my buddy Alex Cox. Dan Wolves are doing, and it's the way I work with things is like super fluid. And so I liked Dan's music, and I had shot like about 8 minutes of footage, and I was archiving it because it was like 20 years ago, and I had kids, and the computer revolution hit, and blah blah blah. Mm-hmm. There was no way I could make this feature, and so I was putting it on ice, but I had like 8 minutes of stuff, and so when we rebooted the thing, a bunch of my guys volunteered because they, like you, missed the boat for doing, practical stuff. And so all of a sudden I had a crew of volunteers, and I could make this thing. And during the 20 years that I was off, I was still working on it. I did like all my homework, studying various mythologies and psychology and Freud and Jung and blah, blah, blah. And tons of storyboards. And when I was ready, I was just ready. And then it took 10 or 12 years, and we shot everything. And now we're getting right towards the end. Great sound designer, Richard Beggs.
Oh,
you know that guy?
The name, I've heard of him before. Actually, I've heard good things.
He got Academy Awards, and he goes back to Apocalypse days. He and Walter Murch were the big sound guys. And again, Richard's kind of like me, where he's like, Phil, I've had enough anymore. Yeah. And so he agreed. I'm really not paying him much at all, except to cover costs for like Foley artists. But the way I work with Insanity was I had gave Dan the 6 minutes of cut assemblage that I had. It was kind of like a trailer, and just said, can you write something to this that's like what you would do? Because the last thing I wanted to do was find a temp track that I liked and design the movie around that. And I knew Dan's stuff was going to be so off the wall that, I didn't want to be bound to something that I fell in love with and configured the movie towards, because that would be just bullshit.
Yeah.
And so Dan, composed something specially 6 minutes. And so me and my editor, what we did was we took that 6 minutes as we were building the various parts of Mad God and just chopped it up and laid it in. And that helped define the tone of the scenes until I shot it all in chapters. And when we got one chapter, and we'd have more complete music, and then we'd start flowing that into chapter 2 and into chapter 3, and everything kind of built itself out. And so, that's pretty much how we did it. And I just leave them alone. It's like and this is the way I work with most people. It's all in the casting. If you cast the right people, it makes your job so much easier.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
It's like, if I'm directing something, it's like, show me what you want to do, and it's just like really easy. And I was working with my buddy Alex Cox. You know him, Repo Man, Sid and Nancy?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
And Alex is actually a pretty good actor. And so I got him to be one of the human actors in Mad God. And came up with a costume for him. And it was kind of a funny costume. And it got like really long fingernails. And I didn't know what the character was. I thought it was kind of like a cartoon character of some sort, maybe Daffy Duck or Bugs Bunny. And so Alex would just get into this thing and being in a costume, he found his performance in the costume with these fingers and the way he was dressed. He started to channel Nosferatu, and it was like, that it made total sense. It was like, wow, yeah, that's the way to go. Keep doing that.
Yeah, like
with Richard and Dan, is like, here's the stuff. See you later. And I might have like, maybe in spotting it, like half a dozen things to say, hey, I really want this, I really want that, but not that many. And the rest is like, see you later. And then when they have it done, it's so great, because it's like seeing the movie for the first time. You're merely a participant with other performers in this thing, and the show doesn't come alive until it's got the sound and the music on it. And when it does, it's like, I didn't make that.
Yeah, you're like, wait a minute here. This is what? I'm connected to this?
You know, and it's just wild. You're seeing the movie for the first time through the eyes of, you know, other artists, you know.
It's true. And that's what I think, you mentioned perfect casting. The perfect casting is when you know you can hire someone on a job, you can cast them in a role, and and they do their own thing. You can let them go. That's that's the perfect way to do it. And they come back, here's this. You know, I like it. I love it. I think that's perfect casting.
Yeah, it was a really amusing twist of that logic on Starship Troopers. Everybody was appalled at Paul's casting choices for the main and Starship Troopers, because he was like, they're like soap opera actors, and Paul went, they're fucking American actors, you know.
Yeah.
Candidates to be fascists, you know.
It's true.
He just let them be who they were, you know.
That's one of those people like, hey, why are you casting these people? Hold on, let me sit you down. Do you know the type of movie Starship Troopers is going to be?
Well, it was amusing. You know, when we're on location, you know, Paul one time said, what did he say? He said something like, I wish we knew what we were doing. And I said, you know, if we knew what we were doing, we wouldn't be doing it. and at some point, we're, you know, at Video Village waiting for something to come up. And I go like, Paul, you know, this is the last time anybody's going to give us $120 million to make an art movie. And he goes, yeah, I know. And then there was it bombed at the box office, you know. I got a call from John Davison, the producer, and he says, well, the movie tanked. You know, it's like, oh, Jesus, why, you think? He goes, well, we made a R-rated horror movie for kids. And get this. So the best part of that failure was when it opened, terrible box office. And I would go to see it, and it opened against Mr. Bean. And the lines for Mr. Bean were huge and sold out, but all the kids snuck in to the theater showing Starship Troopers. All the Starship Troopers money went to Mr. Bean, and it made a
That's amazing. Back in the day, you could do that, and you couldn't get in trouble and like banned from a movie theater for doing that shit. That was back in the day. You could also do that too. Shit.
Yeah. So anyway, keep your eyes peeled for Mad God. It's gonna I'm gonna submit it to the Rotterdam and Berlin film festivals, and then Alamo Drafthouse has picked it up for theatrical release, but that ain't gonna happen for a while. And then taking it out and shopping around to like streaming services, and hopefully I can get somebody to pick it up.
I'm hoping either this year or next year, and I'm really hoping, Phil, because from what you've been talking, everything about it, I'm really excited. Honestly, I'm excited for it because I love when folks like you get in charge and we make something really great. You know, we like, here's our own project. It's not connected to a franchise or $1 billion or $1 trillion things invested. We're not worried about the money. We're worried about the art form because we're tired of the standard bullshit. We want to make something cool, and that's why I'm excited for that.
Yeah. It's just there's no point on making something that's not different. You know, I mean, that's the reason for doing it in and of itself.
Exactly.
But so it'll all be done and out somehow next year. But what I've been doing, how I've been spending my time is I wrote a script for a sequel. That's a lot more commercial. It has characters. Mad God's more of a kind of a philosophical tone. And so this is, more commercial. Is it commercial enough for, an institute to put as much money as it would take to make? And I don't know, but I've got the script, I got the storyboards, I've designed all the characters, I've broken the whole thing down, so I'm ready to go. So hopefully if they like Mad, this I got 3 ideas and 1 finished outline for it and storyboards for the whole.
Very nice. So I mean, at least you're still going to town on it. You're prepared for a franchise. It sounds like, Phil. I'm going to be honest here. You're prepared for it. Like, listen, I know people are going to like it. And here's the sequel. Here's a 3rd one, possibly. Who knows? But I like it.
We shall see.
Yeah, you never know. You never know anymore. So you never know, really, for a lot of shit, what's going to happen.
That's been my thesis the whole time, is be prepared. I just feel like I'm just like a fox sitting behind a rock waiting for a rabbit to run by. It's like when that rabbit runs by, I'm ready, but might be a while.
Yeah, it's like I don't know. This looks like a storm coming in for a little bit. Maybe a hurricane. Yeah, that rabbit's gonna be hiding in a hole too. Shit. Oh man. Well, Phil, is there anywhere? Where can people find you at, good man? Like social media, if you got any website stuff.
I don't do social media, but I have one of the guys at work post stuff on Instagram. So I've got an Instagram thing that we posted a lot. We did a lot at the beginning of the outbreak, and then I just pretty burned through every story I could think of telling and all the pictures we have. So it's kind of ground a little bit to a halt. But one of the things that I do is and I have done for years, and it's been, one of the things that has helped me write Mad God is, like, I'm a very prolific dreamer. And so I write down all of my dreams. I easily have, at least 3 or 4 pretty big dreams during the week, and sometimes every night. And so I started posting those dreams. And
that's cool.
I use them to help inform the logic of because my dreams, although they're not stories, they have very strong narrative and are usually elliptical. There's usually something that starts and then gets interrupted in the middle and then comes back around at the end, and it's just like, it's natural, It's just in the blood.
That is an idea that if people aren't doing that crap, writing down dreams could be so good for you mentally, therapeutically, and also creatively. Like, it could really be something, and inspiration to others too, because you never know what. Yeah, you're like, this is weird. Who knows? But
it's kind of like telling your LSD stories. It's like fascinating to you, but not anybody else. But if you just take them as stories in and of themselves, so these. The prop store and the guys that made a documentary on me, Alex and Jills, are collaborating on a book. They're going to do a 2-volume book, kind of like a prop store did on Rick Baker, on me. And so we're about punctuating the chapters with some of the dreams, and so they'll be there. And then if you want to read them on Instagram, they'll be posted.
I'm a classic man, like we figured out. I really want that book. That's going to be an amazing book. All right, Phil. Well, thank you, good man, for coming on the show. I don't want to take too much more of your time.
Okay, my daughter's calling.
Fair enough. That's a good way to end it. Thank you, good man.
Take care. See ya. Hey, Maya.